Good morning and welcome to an amazing day. It is February the 11th. My name is Laree Williamson. I am the CEO of Agriculture for Life. At Agriculture for Life, we're based in Alberta, and we have the pleasure of connecting Albertans, students, teachers, families to the world of agriculture and where food comes from. Today, we are going to be welcoming everyone to our Growing the Future webinar. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping details. We do ask that everybody keeps their mics on mute. You're welcome to put your cameras on if you like. You don't have to. But we are going to have, if we have time, some time for questions whereby we can use the chat function if there's any burning questions. We are keeping things really tight today, knowing that class schedules run rather quickly. So if you do have follow-up questions, you're more than welcome to send them to us in an email. And we will then follow up with our esteemed guests today to get their answers or to do follow-up sessions. So that's an option to you, because I know when we hear from them, we're going to be excited and we're going to have lots of curious questions. So we are excited today because there's 2 days happening, 2 celebrations in one day. It is the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, a day to promote participation in science for women and girls around the world. But to match that, it's also Canada's Ag Day. Now, do we think that that's a coincidence that these 2 special days are happening on today, February 11th? Absolutely not. We know how important it is that ag and science work together. They go hand in hand. In agriculture, we are always striving to achieve food security in sustainable ways, producing more food with less resources. And the one way that we do that is with science, innovation, and technology. Today, we are so excited. We have 3 brilliant women in science and agriculture that are here to tell us a little bit more about their careers in science and how they connect to agriculture and sustainably feeding the world. So to kick us off and get started, we have Keisha Holman. Keisha lives in Alberta, and she is a research project manager at Alberta Grains. She's an instructor at the University of Alberta, and we're cheering her on because she's defending her PhD in March for her work in combating crop diseases. So today she's going to showcase her journey through her academic and career journey. So over to you, Keisha.
Thank you, Lori. I'm just going to share my screen. Good morning, everyone. It is great to virtually see you all. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Keisha Holman, and today I'm going to talk to you a bit about the kind of trajectory of my career through science. So kind of where I started and how I got to where I am today. So today I am the research project manager for Alberta Grains. And Alberta Grains is a farmer-run commission, and we support Alberta's wheat and barley producers. And we aim to fund research that supports our farmers, whether that be through combating things like insect pests that are eating or destroying crops, or plant pathogens, which is just a fancy word for plant diseases, or the development of different varieties or different crop types that have natural or bred resistance to these many different challenges. And by funding all sorts of different types of research, we're able to provide farmers with tools in their little toolbox so that they can combat all sorts of different challenges so that we could continue to grow superior crops here in Alberta and continue to feed the world. So after I finished high school, I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to end up, but I did know 2 things: that I loved science. Science was always my favorite subject in school, and I loved being outside. So I thought if I could find something that kind of combines the 2, able to being outside, doing science, that would be the best. So I started going to career fairs. I went to different information sessions at the U of A, so that's the University of Alberta. And in doing so, I found a program called Environmental Conservation Science. And I figured out that I could, in fact, do those 2 things and work towards a degree in environmental science. So during this degree, I got to be involved in many different areas of environmental science. So I took plant science classes, so the botany of plants, different plant species. So I took classes learning about different weeds. You'd be surprised how many weeds we have here in Alberta, or other plant classes like mosses. Again, you'd be surprised we were learning 200 different types of mosses, and classes like soil science. So whether that was looking at soil structures and traveling around Alberta to see how different soil types impact the plants that are grown in those areas. And then we got to go to field school, where we spent 3 weeks in Lac La Biche in nature. I got to meet a lot of other great women in science that I'm still close friends with to this day. And we got to do things like navigate through the forest with nothing but a compass, understanding tree health and tree stands, different soil types, and looking for different plants that let us know that the land is being regenerated. So lands that have had impacts from different activities, maybe oil and gas, after those activities are complete, how do we take our environment back to its natural state? So through that, and through all of the different experience, I really found that I love plants. And I knew that I wanted to continue working with plants and plant science to some capacity. So a professor of mine at the U of A actually recommended a position with Strathcona County. And at Strathcona County, the crop inspection specialist was actually looking to switch careers. So I began shadowing her. And this is where I began my lifelong passion for plant pathology, or plant diseases. And this job was great for me because I got to spend my summers outside walking through these beautiful yellow canola fields looking for this disease here that you can see in the middle. And this is called clubroot. So clubroot of canola. So you can see that clubroot forms these kind of tumorous growths on the root of the plant. So as you can imagine, these tumors actually prevent the plant from uptaking water and nutrients from the soil. So if a plant cannot uptake those vital things, the plant eventually begins to wilt and can actually die. So as you can imagine, if this is throughout a field and you're getting lots of your canola plants dying, you are losing your canola seed and your canola oil. So it is a serious issue that farmers in Alberta, and not just Alberta, but throughout the world, are facing. So with this, I decided I wanted to be part of the solution, and I wanted to play my part in hopefully coming up with ways to help farmers combat this disease. So this led me to entering my Master's of Science degree at the University of Alberta. So again, I got to continue being outside. One of my main research objectives. So I think this was also a great transition for me because instead of being in courses now for my master's, I got to run my own research trials. So develop questions about what is going on with clubroot and how I can potentially come up with solutions. So here you can see some of my plot research. So I was testing different soil applied amendments, we call them. So different things I was able to add to the soil. So clubroot, it really likes acidic soils and it's really bad in acidic situations. So I thought if I can add something to the soil that makes the soil less acidic and more basic, hopefully that will prevent clubroot from wanting to infect my plants in those environments. And similarly to, if you think about human diseases or things like the cold or the flu, you've probably heard that there are different strains and more aggressive strains. And similarly with plants and with clubroot, there are different strains of clubroot, and some of them are more infectious than others. But instead of calling them strains, we call them pathotypes. So similar, I guess, to human diseases as well, we have antibiotics or we have resistance. Whereas with plants, we have plants that have resistance bred into them. So they're resistant varieties. However, some of the newer pathotypes or strains of clubroot are able to overcome this resistance. So this resistance is no longer effective. So I wanted to understand all of the different pathotypes that we have in our area so that I could inform farmers if they were in, say, high risk areas, and also inform breeders of the new strains or the strains that we are finding to be very infectious so that they could focus breeding efforts more specifically on those specific pathotypes. So throughout my master's, I got to travel to different events, go to different field days, present to farmers, to other researchers, and I ended up having to defend online because of COVID. So that was definitely an experience. And through teaching some third and fourth year courses at the university, I decided I wasn't quite done yet with school. And so I decided why not continue on, and I went into my PhD. So my PhD also focuses on clubroot because I decided I wasn't done getting answers yet and I wanted to continue my research. So throughout my PhD, I got to spend a lot of time in the greenhouse, which was wonderful, in the sunshine most of the days. And I was continuing to look for those resistance breaking pathotypes, and also between my master's and my PhD, new varieties of canola that were carrying even better resistance to some of those newer, more infectious pathotypes had been developed. So I wanted to test those different varieties against all of the pathotypes that I had identified so that I could better provide farmers with answers on which varieties are best to grow based on their area. So the more I was able to get information, the more I was hoping to be able to share with farmers so that they could use all of these different tools in order to have what we call an integrated management strategy, where you're using many different management options so that if, say, option A fails, you have option B. And if option B fails, you have option C, and so on. So I really honed in on research, and I really decided that research and continuing in research is where I wanted my career path to go. So yes, I am defending my PhD in 1 month, but in the meantime, I ended up getting a fantastic opportunity with Alberta Grains, and I have started my career as the research project manager. This is a great position for me because I get to continue to work with Alberta wheat and barley producers, and I get to work with them to really understand the challenges that they are facing with growing these crops throughout Alberta. And then I get to take that information and put our investment or our research dollars into a variety of different projects that will hopefully kind of do what I did in my master's and PhD and come up with answers or tools for producers to be able to use to combat all of the different challenges they are facing. So my research department includes myself and my director, Jeremy Boychin, and we also have an agronomist and an extension specialist who work with us to make sure all of the wonderful information from all of the projects that we fund is getting out to a huge audience so that everyone can benefit from the research being done. Our committees, so all of our decision-making boards consist of farmers because again, they're the ones doing the work, they're the ones experiencing the challenges, and we want to make sure that what we fund is going to benefit them in the long run so that they can sustainably continue to farm into the future. So we allocate about $5.8 million every year into different research projects. Right now, we are supporting about 100 research projects, and these are a wide variety of projects. So whether that's looking at management options for those pesky insect pests that are eating our crops, or plant diseases, or supporting breeders in developing, on the more genetic side, different cultivars that have resistance to these diseases or to these insects. Or if you think about our changing climate and warmer weather, less rain means more drought. So whether that be developing cultivars or varieties of wheat and barley that are more resistant or able to withstand more drought conditions. We support about 30 different researchers across different universities and provincial and federal research programs. And we often like to collaborate with our friends across the prairies, whether that be in Saskatchewan or Manitoba, so that we can really fund and support as many research projects as possible so that we can provide our farmers with as many tools as possible to make sure that they're successful in continuing to feed the world. So if you're interested in learning a bit more about our research projects or our research program, we have podcasts, we have YouTube videos. We also are on social media, and we like to highlight the different researchers and the different research we fund. So feel free to check those out. And with that, I would like to say thank you so much for listening. I hope I have inspired some of you to delve into your curiosity for science or your curiosity in agriculture science. And if you ever have any questions or would like to talk to me, please feel free to reach out. I've left my email there. And thank you so much, and happy International Day for Women and Girls in Science.
Thank you so much. I've got some, I know the students probably have questions, but I've got some questions. So I'm going to jump straight in and ask you, when you were in school, so
Yeah.
elementary, junior, senior, did you love science? Were you taking all of the science classes? Was that part of sort of, I'm going to use plant breeding. Was that bred into you as a child, how much you loved science, or is it something you grew into? Lots of ag metaphors there.
So I love science from an early age. I had my mom buy me a compound microscope for Christmas when I was in grade 5. So I've always been a science girl. I went to wilderness camp because I love being outside. But I was also a competitive musician. So it was kind of, I always had those two sides to me. But as I went into my career, and continued throughout elementary and junior high, my passion and love for science just continued throughout. And I just knew that was what I was meant to do with my life.
Excellent. So, and if the students do have any questions, teachers, please feel free to use the chat. While that's happening, I can't help but, and the students have probably heard this many times, we talk a lot about 21st century skills. 21st century skills include such things as critical thinking, citizenship, really addressing issues, national and global issues, a growth mindset, communication skills, creativity and innovation and collaboration. And I can't help but align those key 21st century skills to when you were talking, Keisha, about, okay, 21st century skills, check, 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 check. So for all of the students that are joining us today, when you're hearing those 21st century skills, those are actually something that are going to translate and move and help you through your entire career. Because again, as you were talking, there wasn't one of those categories of 21st century skills that you haven't touched upon. The other
Yeah.
question I had was for all of us students that are here today, what does it mean to defend your PhD?
Yeah, so basically it's a big final exam. So I have done years of work developing my research project. I've completed all of my research. I wrote a big long thing called a thesis. So it's basically all of my work combined into a document. And then I go in front of a panel of 5 professors, and they get to ask me and go through my thesis to make sure that all the work I did was scientifically sound and to basically get a better understanding of why I did what I did. And then hopefully, once that's successful, I will be a doctor of philosophy.
That's awesome. Thank you. So that's going to, I know that's going to inspire some students because they're on here today going, I'm getting my PhD. So
I hope so.
they're taking us all the way. So that's fantastic. So we're going to move on now. We're going to move on to Anna Bidet. And if I've said that incorrectly, I'm sorry, apologize that. But she's joining us for today from Manitoba. And she has her PhD, so she has defended it and passed. So yes, indeed, women power, girl power. But she has her PhD in genetics and plant breeding. She is a research scientist working in barley breeding and genetics. She's with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. So she's going to talk to us today about her love of plant breeding. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you very much. And I think it's hard to follow after Kisha. She's so enthusiastic, and I still have my enthusiasm, not as strong as Kisha, but definitely the love for science and agriculture is still there. And I hope I will be able to share some of that with all our attendees. First of all, I want to applaud the organizer for giving us, for organizing this, giving us an opportunity to share what we are doing, and hopefully to inspire some of you. By no means I come here to be a model. I'm here to just share with you my passion and why what we are doing I feel makes a difference. And I know lots of you out there is all that you have in your mind as your future is opening up. How all of us can make a difference and do what we love, because let's face it, not all days are bright days. We have good days and we have not so good days. So when those not good days are coming upon us, I think it's important to have that passion and desire burning strong, that we will roll out of bed and say, no, I'm not. I will push forward. Here I am, because you know what? Other people are relying on me. So I do hope that I could share all of this. And I want to say something. I'm a breeder. And Keisha talked a little bit, alluded about the work that we are doing. So I will take a little bit, few minutes to share what a breeder is, what that means, and why is not a one-man or woman show. It's a team effort. So when we heard about some of the skills that are needed, you will see that being a good team player is essential for breeding. Without that, is not much that one can do. So I hope you could see my screen. Yes, good.
Yeah.
So plant breeding. Just briefly, there is lots of debate. Some call it an art, some call it a science, some call it a business. I decided, you know what, I will not go into that polemic, and I will just say science is a crop improvement. What that means, that we have an extraordinary opportunity to shape a new variety or a new crop cultivar into what is needed by our farmers and end users. And when I said about being a team player, you could see here all the science related that plant breeders rely on. So what means is, for a plant breeder, he or she will need to have a good understanding of those sciences. So then when she's talking to the team members, colleagues that are for example, these days we talk about big data and robotics, or drones. So you know what kind of data you gather, then you could, or you know how to ask what kind of data your colleague could collect for you. So you could use all that information in developing improved cultivars. Why plant breeding is important? Because when we talk about agriculture, we talk about crop management, we talk about genetics, which are the crop varieties that are grown by farmers, and environment. So we talk about this complicated equation, and we will hear more from Judith from agriculture point of view. So what plant breeding could do, it plays, I would say, and sorry for, we are not claiming to be the most important, but plant breeding is an important component in agriculture and is playing a critical role. Why? Because it's offering those genetic solutions to the farmers. It could protect the environment, and also, believe it or not, I here advocating that plant breeding is an important key element in climate change and helping us. Why? Because as we heard from Keisha, we could develop cultivars that are more resilient to drought, more resilient to pests, or even to exploit the nutrients that are right there available in the soil, so like bionitrification and so on and so forth. So I will not go in details, and I hope you believe me what I'm saying. And I just want you to make eager to look and learn on your own more. So what is a plant breeder? Some will call us hunger fighters. Why? Because by 2050, we could potentially having a crisis. I don't want to alarm you, but this is where we are. We need to feed a larger population with a climate that is changing, which means our crop might have to either adapt, or we might have to be creative and maybe domesticate new crops that will be more compatible with the climate conditions that we have. So definitely, why I'm not claiming to be a hunger fighter myself, I do think this is a good label for our colleagues, breeders, for example, that are developing wheat varieties. Or everybody, most of us, we eat bread, so that is an essential product on our table. So I just briefly want to mention a few things. We heard from Keisha about her trajectory, her career. She did her bachelor science, her master, and a PhD. While most often to be a breeder, especially in Canada, one might need a PhD, is not mandatory. It depends if you are aiming for a public or for a private company. In some of the private companies, having just a master degree, it could be sufficient. So we also heard what would be important. So now, as a high school student, or even if you are not yet a high school student and you will be entering the high school student, it's a good time, if this is something that you think might interest you, to take all those focus science classes, like particularly biology, chemistry, mathematics, business, but any other sciences that you think might be useful. So even computer science is very important. I cannot stress enough. One will think, oh, I just need the science. It's not enough. As you saw in my first diagram, there are lots of related activities that require for you to have a great understanding of those concepts. What is also very important, as you saw from Keisha, as she was still in high school, she was interacting, or she was exposed into having science-related activities. So I am very excited to say, as my employer, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada has an extraordinary program. It's called Federal Student Work Experience Program, shortly called FSWEP. And this is available starting for students. The moment high school students graduate grade 10, they could be hired over the summer with us. This will give an excellent opportunity to be exposed to conducting science-related activities. I will have the link for this program because I think it's very important. Within my group, we always, at least one, if not two, of our summer students are high school students. I'm a very proud mama to say that some of our students that joined us when they were in grade 10 some of them are breeders, some they did other science related like pharmacology or becoming doctors. All that gives all that excitement, or others are still working in agriculture, doing their masters and so on and so forth. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity to be able to gather all that experience. I mentioned about the plant breeding being either within public or a private sector. So I also want to touch a little bit, because today is International Day of Women and Girls in Science, and say that being a plant breeder for a woman, it was not necessarily something that we could talk several decades ago. Like in 2010, for example, only 15% of the breeders were women. However, we do see lately a trend. In 2014, 20%, and in 2021, as you could see, 25% of the breeders in the world are women. So there is lots of potential there. It is more open. And when I started, I was the only girl. And when I was doing my PhD, I was the only girl in the group. So I think, and then when I started my job, few years ago, I was probably the only woman sitting at the table, but that is changing. So I think there is a lot, and also a lot of those supporting sciences, we see more and more women. What I'm here also to say that there were a survey conducted worldwide in 2024, and apparently there is worldwide a short on plant breeders. While some could see this as a crisis, I see it, I'm a positive person, and I would like to see it as an opportunity. Why? Because with any challenge, it comes also the opportunity to make a difference, to bring your contribution. Small things or big things, whatever you will do, if you embark in plant breeding, you will move that needle towards in a positive direction. So please keep that in mind. And we will move quickly just to talk about the AFC Brandon. Like I said, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada is a federal government, and I'm working on one of the laboratory that is based in Brandon, Manitoba, Alberta. As you could see, we have up to 22 scientists, with some of them, as you see, being like, I think I counted about 1, 2, 3, about 6 women we are here. So still small, but still a good number overall. I do want also to point out, it's a beautiful building. We have all the field around, all the greenhouse. It's an excellent place to work. Also, talking about Brandon, we are in the heart of Canada, so lots of the environment that we have here, it's representative for other prairie regions. And as you heard from Keisha, for example, Alberta Grains, I'm very happy to say thank you for all the support and funding that you guys are providing for us. And the varieties, the barley varieties that we develop here are also grown in Alberta and Saskatchewan. About AFC, I would like to say that we have about 7 different networks, with WeStem being one of them. I'm a proud member of this group. And also to say that in 2023, AFC was nominated as the #1 employer for diversity. So I cannot say how happy I am and what a great place is to work with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. About barley breeding, just very quickly, my focus is on malting, feed, and food varieties. The majority is malting for beer, yes. However, while, like I said, I cannot be called myself a fighting hunger fighter, but more a thirsty fighter. I do want to say that the barley, as you could see, is used to feed cows or pigs. And also the byproduct, which is brewer's spent grade that is left from brewing, is also used either to feed cattle, either for fish, to grow fish or mushrooms, or even as a nutrient, a fertilizer for soil. So indirectly, we do contribute to that as well. While barley in the past was one of the staple food and is recognized today as a functional food, what that means, it has health attributes. Why? Because it has a soluble fiber called beta-glucan, and in Canada, starting with 2012, we have a health claim for that. So if one has high cholesterol, by changing the diet, incorporating more barley, that could help reduce the issues. So like I said, for breeding is very important, the partnership and collaboration with industry, the stakeholders, because for one, it has to be a visionary and see what is needed. So breeding is something that takes long time. To develop the elite varieties, the elite parental germplasm, it could take up to 20 years. To develop a cultivar, it takes from 8 to 10 years. So when we talk about the skills, we talk a lot, we mention about having a strong science knowledge and so on and so forth, computers, bioinformatics. However, we talked about being a team player, but I think one of the traits that is one of the soft skills that is required is tenacity and being a visionary. This is something, it's not something that will have a quick return. You have to stay strong, be patient, and have patience to see the fruits, or in this case, the grains of your labor. As you could see, these are just a schematic of different steps that we take, but we use a lot, and you will see here, we need a strong team and we need collaborators. As you could see, like I said, this is a picture that we took last summer. We celebrated 100 years of barley breeding at our center, and you could see I'm very happy to say, we almost have a perfect 50-50 split between girls and boys, and all of those are summer students. So we rely a lot on the summer students. We have Sam here and Daniel. They are just finishing, and Julian. All three of them were high school students, and they joined us last year, and now they are into university, and they are still with us. As they go into university, they could be also joining full-time in summer, but part-time during the winter times, especially if it happens, like in this case, we have Brandon University here, and they go to Brandon University, and while doing their studies, they also work with us part-time. As I said, within AFC, there are different centers, and I'm relying a lot on the support provided by my colleagues. And also we collaborate a lot. So having communication skills, I think it's something that is very important because it is not only within your team, but also within your colleagues and outside, nationally and internationally. A breeder requires lots of resources, or a breeding program requires lots of resources, like land, dedicated and very good quality of land for research, a dedicated warehouse, laboratory, and like I said, is a year-round activity. We never stop. All the time there is something that we have to do. So I'm here to say, as a woman, it might not be always easy because sometimes your family might require your support more than needed, but it's totally doable because, again, it's not a one-person job. It's a team effort. And relying on the support of your team, it makes things more easy and doable. So we do rely a lot on the molecular tools and the genetics. So this is Lindsay, our research assistant, conducting all sorts of experiments for us that help us with the selection process. We also, some of the barley cultivars that we developed recently, we have feed cultivars, we have malt cultivars, and also we have hulls for food cultivars. Like I said, it seems even the bears might enjoy a beer in a cold, hot day. So that is from us, and we are very happy to say that our varieties are on top 3, grown from all across the prairies. So yes, what we do makes a difference, and I choose to end with this, which is a representation of why barley is important for Canada and where all this hard work goes, because 14.4 billion in economic activity is generated by barley related activities, and more than 100,000 jobs in Canada relies on barley related work. So with that, I would like to thank you. Here is my email address. please feel free to contact me. I will be more than happy to talk to you to explain a little bit more about why breeding is important in general and why barley breeding is important. This is the link for the federal student workshop program. Why I will encourage you to watch some of the videos that are available there to see why it's important or why it matters to work within AFC and why AFC is a good career choices, especially when you work in science. But it's not only that, but I will leave it for you to discover. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anna. I was writing all of these notes, and I'm sure there's lots of questions, and that curiosity and the tenacity and perseverance, I think, is really important, because I was writing down, but then you answered it around, well, within the science, scientific inquiry, you fail a lot, right? As we, the students, I'm sure, know, they do their research projects, and well, that didn't work. And it's a long term. These take 10, 15 number of years. So I think that that's another one of our 21st century skills, is really having that persistence and being comfortable with, well, that didn't work. I learned something from that, but now I'm going to adjust this slightly and go that direction. The other thing, of course, very topical, is the United States and talking about tariffs. And when I see this is sort of an inquiry questions for teachers to dig deeper into this topic, is so much of what is grown is exported. We export billions of dollars of barley to other countries. So there's a little bit of a curious question for teachers and students to dive into, just some of the politics around science, food, all of this that happens to go in it. So it's quite interesting how it's all connected. Everything is really connected. And I'm sure after the Grey Cup, or did we just have the Super Bowl? Sorry, not the Grey Cup. We had the Super Bowl on Sunday. The beer sales probably went straight up too. So that probably helped the industry. So we're going to move right along. We're going to move all the way to PEI, where we know they've got a whole bunch of snow. Dr. Judith Nirmaninza, she lives in PEI, and she has her PhD in soil and environmental science. She's a research scientist working in soil conservation and regeneration, and she too works with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. So welcome, Dr. Judith, over to you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and for inviting me. So my presentation is very, very high level, no many technical words. So because it was covered by my colleagues. So my presentation, this is the outline. I'm going to talk about my career in science, why do I love what I do, and how my job connects to agriculture. So I was born in this small country in East Africa, in Rwanda. It's very small that you can't even see it on the map. So in terms of area, it's 25 times smaller than Alberta. So you can imagine how small it is. So growing up, when I have your age, I really enjoyed science classes as you. And but I did not want to be like a chemist, to do only chemistry or only biology. I really wanted to connect science to something practical, something that, you see what you can do right away with it. And agricultural sciences was the best fit. That's how I ended doing a bachelor degree in agricultural sciences. And when I finished the bachelor degree, as many bachelor degrees, you touch on many aspects. So we did math, we did physics, we did chemistry, animal science, plant science, soil. So when I finished, I felt like, if someone hires me, I will need at least 4 to 5 years working with a mentor to develop some skills before I could go on, not be independent. So I was hired as a teaching assistant at university. But I realized that when people in soil, because I have taken more courses in plant, I could not really understand much the world of soils. So I said, if I got an opportunity, I really wanted to dig deeper in soil science. So I got an opportunity for founded master degree in soil and crop science. I really enjoyed it. By that time, I did understand that I really want to become a scientist and dig more and more in soil science. So I got also a PhD degree in soil and environment. And this gave me also opportunity to travel the world because I did all those degrees in different countries and different continents. So I met many people who inspired me, but also I learned, the reality of different places because as you can understand, an environmental issue in United States may be different from what you see in Quebec City and what you have in PEI. So that is also important because you have to be adaptable and to sit, and your knowledge is going to serve you, but you still have to understand the local reality. So during my master's and my PhD, I was more working on how can we increase nitrogen use efficiency. Nitrogen is a very limiting nutrient for crop growth. So I focus on nitrogen use efficiency, basically seeing how you can manage it, to mitigate the losses in the environment, either as greenhouse gas or polluting the water as nitrate. So now I'm working for Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada as a soil scientist. In few words, what I do, I basically evaluate farming practices, how they impact the soil quality. When I say farming practices, it's a broad word, but basically farming practices, you have to imagine growers like Western Canada, you have canola growers, you have cereal growers, you have potato growers, you have corn. So let's say you have a grower who is focusing on corn and soybean. If that is his cropping systems, rotating corn and soybean, this grower may have cows. So he may be applying manure to his land. He may be using different equipment to till the land. So farming practices is broad, but basically it's every decision, every tool a grower uses, every crop rotation he's selecting is going to affect the soil. So the soil is a living and it's a very important natural resource that we need to preserve. So I really help to measure the changes in the soil, focusing more on the structure of the soil, but also the nutrient. How those decisions are impacting his yield, the nutrient use efficiency, and also how they affect the environment. That's basically my job here. And I will show a video later, hearing how we collaborate with growers to improve the soil quality. So why do I love my job? I think the thing I like most about my job is really the diversified tasks I do. I am in the field sometimes, then I'm in the lab. I spend most of the time analyzing the data that my team is collecting and see the story behind. So I can attend a conference and tell the growers, this is what we found out. I also like the opportunity when I attend a conference to hear about my peers, what they are doing, to learn from them. And when I'm connecting with growers, also to learn because I have like scientific approach, but the growers we are working with, they have the practical side. So working with them also makes me like learning every day. Anna did talk about the training the new generation. That is the aspect I love most. And we have like my research assistant now, she started with us 9 years ago. She was 19 that time. as on job training. So she came to work in my lab, and she ended up by being hired by Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. And we have so many people here who started with us as summer students. The other thing I like is having money, having like founding opportunity to test new farming practices and to make an impact and to improve the way things are done. That is also something that I like most. Also, I think we are pursuing a fulfilling mission because we are helping the growers to improve their bottom line. So, and helping them to feed increasing population. I think I like that because I feel like the job I do is helping someone directly. So Anna talked about the opportunities we have to hire young people. So from grade 10, grade 11, 12, or in college. So below here, I did put some expertise from my colleague here in Charlottetown. So basically, it does not matter if you really like to explore what's going on. Many people working with us now, they were doing biology, others were doing chemistry, others they were economists, agronomy. So there are so many opportunities, like if you like a computer science, people who are doing modeling. So there are so many connected opportunities with agriculture. And I had some summer students coming here and they were doing biology. They worked with us for 4 years. When they graduated, they went to do medical school. So there are many opportunities here. So my next video, just to show you how we collaborate with growers, it's showing a grower who is testing different methods of applying liquid manure. So what I say that our growers we work with, they are also good innovators. For scientists, what we do, we measure the changes that are happening. So in this video, there are many scientists working with these growers. Some we are looking at the soil health, other people are looking at the greenhouse gas emission. We are also going to measure the crop yield and quality, the forage quality. So we work with different professionals. We have different roles, but we help them to see the changes because otherwise they don't have time. They are working to pay the bills and to see how much yield they are getting, but we can see the changes on the soil to make that natural resource sustainable for the future generation.
The traditional type of drill bar would actually hover above the ground. This one operates on these springs. So it actually sits directly on the ground with a little bit of pressure. And this blade makes a tiny trench in the ground where the liquid manure pours out this opening, capturing more of your nitrogen.
I am Judith Nyiraneza. I am a soil scientist working for Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada in Charlottetown. This BMP6 refining nitrogen management from liquid manure application is part of Living Lab PI. And Living Lab is all about a collaboration between the scientists and end users to identify different farming practices to mitigate climate change.
I'm Steve Reeves, the 6th-generation dairy farmer. We operate Reeves Farms here in Prince Edward Island, my wife Jessica and my parents, Kate and Farrell. This project really got started during a Living Lab co-creation meeting in the winter, and Kyra Stiles from the PEI Department of Agriculture contacted me and talked about doing a project on liquid manure, and it kind of went from there.
Kyra Stiles initiated the project, and myself and Jeff Campbell, the dairy and livestock specialist for the province. We are kind of the connection between the producer and the scientist and our researcher, and we just help facilitate the project along. So this trial is comprised of 3 components. We're doing a check strip as a baseline, And then the next component of it is the splash bait, and that is what the producer typically does. And then the final component is what the producer is trying new, which is the dribble bar component.
Nobody was selling them in the province, so I had to source it outside Prince Edward Island, then arrange shipment from Europe, which took about a year to get it here.
The common practice is to broadcast manure, spreading manure in liquid manure in the air, which is not good for neighbors because you have high odors. So instead of having your liquid manure spread in the air, the dribble bar is going to apply really right on the ground, and you can have all your manure where you want it to be.
The odor is way less, which shows us that we're capturing that ammonia in the soil, and it's there to benefit the crop that's growing.
We're measuring yield, and we're also measuring GHG emissions on that, as well as we're doing soil sampling.
Greenhouse gas is one thing we are looking at. We use what we call static chambers, targeting three gases: methane, carbon dioxide, and we have nitrous oxide emission.
Traditionally, we would just spread all the liquid manure in the spring, and then again late in the fall, so we'd have enough room to get through the winter. Fall application, we weren't getting much benefit out of the nitrogen in the manure because it would leach away over the winter. So with this technology now, we are spreading in the spring, and then after each cut of forage, we are spreading again. So in the fall, when we traditionally would be late fall, we'd be emptying our pits. Now they're empty. And we've gotten the value of those nutrients all summer while the plants are still growing.
Refining nitrogen management is an important strategy to mitigate climate change. So we want to make sure we apply the right product at the right amount, at the right timing, at the right place.
We as farmers are on the front line of climate change. So we're trying to work toward net zero hard. The dairy industry has actually promised to be net zero by 2050. And these are the type of technologies that are going to get us there. When we feed the plant to the cow, he produces waste as a byproduct of the producing milk. That waste can then be reapplied to the fields. We're capturing most of the nutrients from that waste, regrowing the plant to feed the cow again. So I think that's how, another 6 generations on the farm is going to happen.
The result be important to the growers to make informed decision, knowing the benefits of applying manure using different methods. I see more growers adopting the dribble bars once they will see the benefits associated with it.
I think farmer-led research is very important to see real-world results. In the laboratory, it works, but when you try it in the real world where things go wrong and weather conditions are different, it's really important to have that on-the-ground, real farm experience.
That was it for my presentation. Thank you so much, and hope we're gonna have more students coming to work for AFC.
Well, I would be excited to come. I'll tell you that. That was fantastic. I love, as Ag for Life, we, kind of have that theme, life is about learning. And we absolutely love and appreciate these amazing scientific minds joining us today to celebrate Women and Girls in Science, International Day of Women and Girls in Science, and also to celebrate Canada's Ag Day. So we thank you so much for sharing your journeys and inspiring us to think a little bit about our own career choices and where we want to go as students. And we also invite teachers to visit our website, agricultureforlife.ca. We have many lesson plans and activities that align with these topics, so you can dive a little deeper and bring these, as we say, agriculture to life in your classroom. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, presenters, again, and enjoy such a special day. Thank you.